Greetings. It's Monday, April the 27th. In the rather soon-to-be infamous year of 2026, I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column, and this is the Monday Morning Report. Well, it looks like 3 times is not a charm. Everybody knows, of course, about the attempted assassination on President Trump that occurred at the Correspondents' Dinner at the Washington Hilton in Washington, D.C. In spite of what a lot of the mainstream media is saying, it was not a vague attack on the administration. Come on, people. Stop it now. The culprit, who I will not name, who came from Torrance, California, a school teacher, just got his master's degree last year. Well, his life is completely screwed, as we know. He is not cooperating with authorities, which is a fancy way of saying he's just not talking. He's supposed to be arraigned later this morning in federal court to face a cornucopia of charges of all kinds. Thank goodness nobody was hurt or killed. The Secret Service did their job. One was hit in the bulletproof vest that they do wear, and I don't know exactly who shot what and how much went where, but they captured the guy, and, well, that's all she wrote. Now, there are many, many, many people criticizing lack of security at the hotel. Why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Well, I lived in that neighborhood, and I have been in that hotel probably a couple of hundred times for lunch, breakfast, dinner. Breakfasts are pretty good there, by the way. At least they were. I've been in that ballroom many times, not for a correspondence dinner. I never was able to get those tickets, but I've been there for various events. I know it well. It was my neighborhood. Those were good times back living in that neighborhood. It was a more civilized age. But you cannot shut down hotels in Washington, D.C. The reason the Washington Hilton is used is because it has the largest ballroom in the city. There's a bigger one in the former post office, which became a Trump hotel for a while. It isn't as good from what I understand. This is, in spite of people criticizing it, a very good case for the long overdue ballroom at the White House, which has been talked about for, well, a good 150 years. I mean, Civil War veterans were thinking of it back in the day. Finally, it's going to get built. This person who is a leftist, and isn't it interesting how the leftists are the ones that are doing all the violence? Do you remember that softball game that they used to have in Alexandria, Virginia back in the day when the Democrats and Republicans would fight it off on a softball diamond? And that was interrupted one terrible day by a leftist with a rifle, and he thankfully didn't kill anybody, but he did injure quite a few people, some seriously. No, the Hilton or any other hotel is not going to frisk everybody going into it. It's not going to have everyone go through a metal detector who checks into it. It just wouldn't function. The city has too many people coming and going and too many people with secrets, and you're not going to have some rent-a-cop at the front going through an attaché case that belongs to some intelligence operative or diplomat or something like that. It's not possible to do. So those of you critical of the Hilton, stop it. You've never been there probably, and I think they did an amazing job given what they had to deal with. That is, by the way, the hotel that Ronald Reagan was shot at in 1981. After that, they put an overhang in the location where the limousine usually pulls up. Let's just look at reality here. A country is in a very bad way right now because there are people out there who are applauding this and saying at the same time, well, not all leftists are like that. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. All of you out there are aching for violence. You're aching for conflict. You have these death wishes of Donald Trump. You have fantasy memes of him hanging or him going to prison or being beaten or being tossed into hell or something like that. And you are the ones who are responsible for what is going to happen in this country if it doesn't stop. So please, don't give me any platitudes here. The Correspondents' Dinner, which is traditionally where the president makes fun of himself and other people as well, this was the first time Donald Trump ever attended it. In fact, he never attended it during his time in office previously or last year. It was arguably the place where he decided to run for president when he was mocked by President Obama back in the day. Really, really badly, and he didn't take to that, so he decided, well, hell, I'm going to be president, and sure enough, he went there. Doesn't matter if you like him or not. Political assassinations never go the way the assassins or the people behind the assassination want it to go. And I'm really tired of people coming up with lines saying, oh, damn, he missed, he came so close, it would have been so good if he had succeeded. No, 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 no. And that includes you right-wingers out there who think that assassination of left-wingers is a good idea. It's not. It never goes well. It never goes the way it's supposed to. And it's just plain wrong. Let's hope that the Secret Service continue to stay on their toes. And, well, you're going to see Washington a little less friendly than it used to be. No longer when you can go into a coffee shop and see a member of Congress reading a newspaper and be able to walk up to them and say hello, or see members of the cabinet going to a supermarket or anything like that. It used to be a much more friendly town, and it used to be a much more friendly country. Interesting how the rise in leftist insanity has resulted in both going away. Well, the other big story today seems to be imminent resumption of conflict with Iran. The blockade is working. By the way, blockade is an act of war. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Kennedy administration talked about the blockade of Cuba being a quarantine. But it seems to be working. The Iranians are losing anywhere from $400 to $500 million a day in revenue, depending on your sources. And that's a lot of money for a country that really doesn't have much more going for it. And its military has been, well, the formal military is pretty much intact and not really doing anything. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC is what we call it. They're like the SS. They're like the Schutzstaffel. And they're the elite believers as opposed to the regular Iranian army, which is like what the Wehrmacht was back in the day. Well, there is upheaval in Iran, which is what this economic blockade is supposed to get. By the way, one thing that no one's talking about, they're not getting any money. Also, Iran imports a lot of its food and a lot of its other necessities through the Straits of Hormuz. So they really have screwed themselves. You know, they could have had ports outside the Straits of Hormuz, and no. The Americans are now cutting off everything to that country. Is it going to hurt the civilian population? Yes, but a lot of the civilian population wants to see the days of tyranny gone. Let's hope they are. I predict, and this is just a prediction, that the government there is going to be overthrown. It already has been. The mullahs, the religious holy men, are no longer running the show. It's effectively a military dictatorship by a bunch of people that are not prepared for the job, and there are different factions there, and there are different, well, conflicts and all sorts of things. The foreign minister, who was supposed to be negotiating with the Americans, and that was canceled, he's been called a traitor by other factions. So the country is in chaos, which is nice if you want to see a regime go away. And it's never going to be the same again, and the country will never be that powerful again, much to the relief of its neighbors. Hopefully, it'll become a stronger country when the crown prince comes back into power, if that happens, and hopefully it will. He was off in Europe trying to get support for several weeks. Somebody in Hamburg, I believe it was, threw some tomato sauce on him. Bad security, because if someone can get close enough to you to throw tomato sauce on your suit, well, they can get close enough with a gun to kill you. He actually did a video in English, basically thrashing the Europeans. And I'll tell you what, if he takes power in Iran, if you're in Europe, you're going to end up paying a lot more for your oil if you can get it at all. The look on that guy's face, man, he's angry because, frankly, Europe is now a continent of cowards. Except, of course, for the invaders that the Europeans decide to let in and take over their continent. Thousands of years of culture and civilization is being extinguished because of political correctness. Oh boy. That's something that future history books are going to be convinced was a total conspiracy and never happened. Kind of like landing on the moon or the Holocaust. You know what I mean? Yeah. In that class. So, where does this all lead us? Well, the U.S. is right now bracing for a lot of turmoil. Virginia here is something I could get into separately, and I probably will, where I'm based. And that's we have the governor, and I'm not going to call her anything. I'm polite right now. I might lose it. On the 21st, we lost the election, and now there's going to be a setup where there's going to be all but one Democratic representative going to Congress. That's going to shift the balance of power if things go the way they might this coming autumn, and that's going to lead to all sorts of mayhem. The Democrats, and I'm going to just call you guys what you are traitors to our nation. You are doing everything you can to destroy it and make it a one-party state. None of you believe in the Constitution. None of you believe in our heritage or our history. But liberal Democrats, I don't think there's a conservative one in existence anymore. They used to exist, but they're gone. Long extinct, like the dodo and freedom of speech in the United Kingdom. Yeah, we have some hard times coming, folks. And you might want to be a little more pessimistic. You know, people who are pessimists know enough to flee a country when it's going down the tubes. I'm not saying to flee the United States, but if you are in a state, like here in Virginia, that is going from red to purple to blue, 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 run by the most woke insanity that can be mustered, you might want to consider where you're going to want to be when there is no escape. They're talking about finding people in New York who want to leave, taxing you if you want to move your company or your business. We're going to have many disunited states. So look where you want to live now and be very careful about it. And get involved in local politics. So many people in Virginia did not until it was too late. And you might want to consider where to go if you're in California and you're not a fan of the insanity there. Well, people are already leaving California in droves and what have you. But this country is going to split up. It's going to split up in some form. It's going to be very hard to live or even move from state to state at some point in the future. That sounds Orwellian, but come on. If 20 years ago I told you what was going on today was going on, you'd think I was nuts. And it's going to get worse. I'm sorry to be a little bit pessimistic today on this beautiful spring day in many places, but you've got to look at what's real in order to fix things, to make them better. The nutcase, the liberal left-wing nutcase who traveled all the way from California, that left-wing bastion, to Washington, D.C. in the hopes of killing Donald Trump with a well-thought-out plan that might have worked if people weren't on the ball. I don't think you're going to see the last of that. There's too many people who have gone over the deep end. And if somebody who has a long career, at least a reasonably long career for their age, and got a master's degree in advanced subject last year, well, throwing that all away, well, many people here in this country are throwing away so much, and most of them are in leadership. Mayors and governors of states that were once beautiful places are now, well, let's face it, they're not going into a good location. So everybody out there who's sane, and remember, the United States is now divided into two camps. The liberal, leftist, elite, wokest types, and those who have their heads screwed on properly. Make sure you know what side you're on, and look for a place to live where you can endure what's probably going to be coming down the road. That's it for today. If you appreciate my work, please like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends and share with your enemies, and let them know that they're enemies. I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. I'm up on X. My handle there is MICCAMPEN, MICCAMPEN. This podcast originates at Substack. My handle there is aureliancolumn.substack.com. Until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and remember Clown World, the Deep State, and all the leftist insanity from sea to shining sea must be destroyed. Good day.